I'm seriously hyped for this fight now. It's Tuesday when I'm recording this. Fight goes down on Saturday, so we got a few days to go. But yeah, I'm very, very much excited for this. Now, in this video, I wanted to put down an alternative view. I know a lot of people are very close-minded to this fight. I know a lot of people have made up their decisions. They've nailed their colours to the mast, and their minds aren't for changing. Funnily enough, I'm actually one of those who is in the swing voter category. I've changed my mind on this fight several times on the build-up. I still haven't finalised my full prediction for the fight, but I wanted to look at this from an alternative view. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that this fight is going to be an absolute barns burner. You know, 3 or 4 rounds of action, early knockout. I'm not 100% convinced I agree to that, but we'll come to that in the second part of this video. The first part of this video talks about, or I'm going to talk about, what happens if this is a 3 or 4 round brawl. What happens if this is an absolute pub fight? You know, previously what we've seen is guys come out and try and box with these guys. You know, guys like Gary Cornish trying to fight behind a jab against Joshua. You know, guys like Kevin Johnson coming out to survive and be defensively minded. What I'm talking about is if this is a head-on collision. If it is 2 cars driving down a road, hitting each other. You know, how is it going to break down if the fight does go that way? Now, for me, it's interesting because a lot of the same people who are the guys saying Anthony Joshua is going to smash Dillian Whyte in 1 minute, Dillian Whyte's useless, Dillian Whyte's got no chance. You know, a lot of the people who are the ardent Anthony Joshua fans are the same people who are saying this fight's going to go 1 or 2 rounds. Now, from my perspective, I personally would suggest if this fight descends into a 1-round brawl, that's favouring Dillian Whyte here. You know, the truth is that Dillian Whyte has achieved form at only a certain level in his professional career. And in terms of the victories he's got on his record, you'd have to say that at this point his resume is weaker than a Derek Chisora, maybe even weaker than a David Price type character. You know, that sort of level. I mean, there's nothing on Dillian's resume to suggest he's a top 10 heavyweight or anything of that nature. I mean, the same could be said for Anthony Joshua, of course. But there seems to be this perception, because of Joshua's power, because of the hype, because of the Olympic gold medal, that he's the superior prospect. And that could be true. But I do think that if this fight goes in 1 round or 2 rounds, look, they're both huge men, they're both big punchers. It could go either way, of course it could. But if it does go in 2 or 3 rounds, aren't we flicking a coin here for the result? Doesn't that, in many ways, negate some of Joshua's obvious advantages? I mean, which one of these guys is the guy with the Olympic gold medal? You know, the amateur pedigree. Which one of these guys would you suggest is the superior technical boxer? You know, for me, that probably looks like Anthony Joshua at this stage of his career. You know, it probably does. He seems to have more of a boxing pedigree, certainly with the Olympic gold medal. So that's why I kind of find it a bit hard when people say this is going to be a fight in the centre of the ring, it won't last 3 minutes, and Anthony Joshua will smash Dillian Whyte. Because the truth is, there's nothing on Anthony Joshua's professional record to suggest that he's going to be able to stand there in the centre of the ring, throw windmill punches back and forth without Dillian Whyte, and, you know, remain victorious. You know, it's funny, if you look at that amateur footage from their initial fight, and I don't really factor that into my prediction, you know, for me that was too long ago, it was a different sport, 2 different men. But that was just 2 of them having a scrap, and Dillian Whyte came out victorious that night. I mean, if this descends into just a pub fight, then surely that footage becomes relevant for him. Because surely what happened that night is going to be reminiscent of, you know, what could happen again. The way I look at it is, if this turns into a sort of one-round all-action fight, then Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte are both going to be tested in ways we haven't seen before. Neither of them have really proved their chin in a professional ring. Now, there's more doubt about Anthony Joshua's chin than Dillian Whyte's. That's not to say that Anthony Joshua won't prove he has a better chin than Dillian Whyte. He may well do. But at present, there's more doubt. I mean, Dillian Whyte, to my knowledge, he's never been knocked out. You know, he's got an extensive pro boxing career combined with an MMA kickboxing career where he was never knocked out. With Anthony Joshua, obviously, famously, we know Dillian Whyte dropped him. There's also a lot of rumours, and to the point where you have to say there's no smoke without fire, that back in the old days, David Price knocked Anthony Joshua out in sparring. You know, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But there's certainly a lot of discussion about it, let's put it that way. Now, all of this is irrelevant if Anthony Joshua doesn't get hit. But my suggestion is that if this descends into an absolute brawl with the two guys trying to take each other's head off, it's highly likely Joshua will have to eat some leather for the first time in his professional career. And Dillian Whyte seems to be a legitimately big puncher. You know, as Tyson Fury once said, you can't put muscle on a chin. You know, that's a good quote. And let's be honest, we all know what happened when David Price first took a major step up in boxing. And this is Anthony Joshua's first major step up. You know, David Price, the first time he really had to take something on his chin, it was against a heavyweight who was of much higher calibre than he'd been in with previously. Could that be the same for Anthony Joshua? I mean, people have short memories. People forget the hype that was surrounding David Price. You know, it probably wasn't quite the same hype. Anthony Joshua had been promoted better. Anthony Joshua won the gold medal rather than the bronze. But, you know, there was similar commentary on the forums and online that David Price was going to be this dominant force in, you know, in world boxing, and nobody would be able to live with him, and he'd smash Klitschko and he'd smash Tyson Fury. You know, that's now the same talks being made about Anthony Joshua, and it's because people buy into the power. You know, I'm not here to say that Dillian Whyte is definitely going to win this fight at all. What I'm saying is, it makes me nervous if I look at a heavyweight prospect and they haven't answered any of the basic questions. Chin, stamina, you know, back foot game, inside game. And Joshua hasn't answered those questions. So my theory is that all those people saying this will be over in 2 or 3 rounds, have you actually just considered for a moment what that means? I mean, Dillian Whyte, even if you say he's not on Joshua's level, and you may be right, Dillian Whyte is certainly on a level above Kevin Johnson and Gary Cornish. He's coming seemingly with a legitimate desire to win this fight. Now, Dillian Whyte is not, in my opinion, just going to sit there and allow himself to be knocked out like those guys have. Dillian Whyte's going to bring it. And what does bringing it mean? It means he's going to try and get inside Anthony Joshua's jab. He's not just going to sit there with his back to the ropes, letting Joshua tee up on him. He's going to be inside. He's going to be on Joshua's chest. He's going to be throwing hooks. He's going to be throwing uppercuts. He's going to be trying to take Joshua's head off. You know. Look at David Price versus Erkan Tepe. Look at Richard Towers versus Lucas Brown. You know, if I was Dillian Whyte, I'd be watching those pieces of form, and I'd be trying to put on a similar fight to what Erkan Tepe did that night when he fought David Price. Because whilst Anthony Joshua will most likely prove to be a far superior fighter than David Price, at this stage, the proof isn't there on paper. You know, the form isn't in the book, so to speak. We're yet to see the performance from Anthony Joshua where he boxes beautifully on his back foot for 10 rounds. You know, if I was Dillian Whyte, I'd be looking to ask those questions, looking to pose those tests to Anthony Joshua. Now, don't get me wrong, it is the same both ways. You know, Dillian Whyte is equally as untested, and I'm not saying Dillian Whyte has answered more questions than Anthony Joshua. If anything, the level of Dillian Whyte's opposition has actually been weaker. But the point is, there's a discrepancy here, isn't there? Anthony Joshua should get more scrutiny because he's 1-10 on with the bookmakers, whereas Dillian Whyte is 8-1 against. Everyone in the world and his wife is picking Anthony Joshua. No one's picking Dillian Whyte. So that level of scrutiny should be focused on Joshua rather than Whyte, right? Because Joshua is the certainty here in the eyes of the bookmakers. And for all those who think this is going to be a 2-round absolute smash-up, think about what that actually means. Don't expect Dillian Whyte just to sit there with his back up against the ropes like this. You know, let's see what Joshua's got if Dillian Whyte puts his head on his chest and starts throwing punches to the body and pushes him back. You know, have you factored that into your equation? You know, all these people making that prediction. If you're an Anthony Joshua fan, I'm not sure that, you know, falls into your equation. I think Anthony Joshua's best served keeping this long. I think he's best served keeping it behind a jab. I think he's best served keeping his chin safe, you know, keeping his defences high. He doesn't want to get involved in a fight like we saw between Callum Smith and Rocky Fielding the other day. I mean, he may do, and he may actually prove superior. But what I'm getting is, for me, Joshua has the highest chance of winning if he uses his amateur pedigree and his technical boxing skills. Because clearly, it seems at this stage, he may be the superior operator in those terms. For me, it's less clear that he's the superior operator in brawling terms. In terms of the inside game, you know, that sort of stuff. Yeah, people talk about Joshua's punching power. And it does seem to be, like, legitimate. But it's all relative against the level of opposition. And it's this, again, it's the same for Dillian Whyte. But we'll see. You know, we'll see. I mean, again, that's an intangible going into this fight. So a lot of people think it will go in a few rounds. I am more sceptical of that. These guys, you know, forget the hype, forget the hatred, forget the fact that they both want to kill each other. They're professional boxers trained by professional trainers. They haven't got through their careers by going in there like headless chickens swinging. They've got through to the level they're at by boxing and by using their attributes. Don't be surprised at all if the first round here is cautious. Both guys know the other one has power. Power beyond what they've faced before. Don't be surprised at all. And yeah, in my heart, I may be proved to be wrong. It's happened before, as you all know. But this may not be a one-round blowout. This may well be gritty chess match boxing for a few rounds till it opens up a bit. You know, guys not wanting to take an early risk. Guys not wanting to get knocked out in the first round. It doesn't surprise me at all if both guys box to orders. You know, Jonathan Banks is in Dillian Whyte's corner. I'm sure he's going to come up with some sort of game plan. You know, Anthony Joshua obviously has got Sims in his corner. I'm sure their trainers aren't going to be telling them just to go out and knock him out. You know, I'm sure there's going to be more strategy there. Dillian Whyte, he's viewed as the shorter Derek Chisora type fighter. A lot of people compare him to Chisora. But Whyte is far more fond of the jab than Derek Chisora. I also think Whyte has got quite extended reach. So there is some scope here for an outside chess match for the early rounds. There is some scope for this to go long. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this fight goes 4, 5, 6 rounds. You know, I really wouldn't. People saying it's going to go over in 30 seconds. Obviously, that's the favourite, given the fact that they're both big punchers. But I wouldn't be surprised if this goes long. And then you've got to factor in other intangibles, you know. And again, I'm going to focus on Joshua here, not because there aren't intangibles about Whyte, but because Joshua is the overwhelming favourite. And I'm thinking to myself, what's Joshua's stamina like? Look at his muscles, you know, look at the way he's built. Would you really want to be supporting him if this fight is still going on in 6 rounds with that physique? Yeah, let's be honest, Joshua has bullied all of his opponents so far. He's battered them. He doesn't really need to outbox them. I'm sure he has outboxed them in their own ways, but he doesn't really need to put in like sort of exemplary technical displays because he's been so far in advance of them. But there are questions to his boxing. You know, I look back at that and it makes me feel uncomfortable. I know he's improved a lot and he's grown up a lot and he's got a lot more experience, but to me this is a guy who does not seem comfortable under fire. This is a guy who, as an amateur, didn't really seem to know what to do when the punches were coming back at him. You know, how's he going to respond when he's hit? How's he going to respond if Dillian Whyte puts him on his back foot? How's he going to respond if he's getting smacked in the body, left, right, left, right? What's he going to do if Dillian Whyte ducks inside his jab, starts throwing uppercuts on the inside, and won't get off his chest? You know, Anthony Joshua may come through these tests, but to be honest, he should have already answered those questions ahead of this fight. You know, for me, if I was Eddie Hearn, I would have found guys to do rounds with him before this test. And I mean that. And people say, oh, it's hard to get rounds with him, he hits so hard. But there are guys out there, aren't there? You know, Ustinov, Bermain Stavern, Carlos Takam, Bryant Jennings. You know, there are names out there. And I just wonder whether... And some of those guys are higher class operators than Dillian Whyte even, so maybe my point is flawed. But when there are these many questions about your fighter, I'm not sure Dillian Whyte is the man you want asking these questions. And I've just got a feeling that, let's put it this way, if you hear the bell for the 10th round ringing here, and I know the odds are massively against that, but factor in what I've said about both guys wanting to box to order. Factor in what I said about, you know, both guys getting to where they've got by skill, not by just having a brawl. I just feel if this fight goes to 10 rounds, you want to be on Dillian Whyte, not Anthony Joshua. I think Joshua's build is a massive negative for 10-round fights, 12-round fights. Yeah, those last rounds, the 10th round, 11th round, 12th round, if they're still going, even if Joshua's well ahead on the cards, I'd want to be on Dillian Whyte. Yeah, I really would. So what I'm saying is, if you're someone who thinks this fight is going to go in 3 or 4, then I suggest, in many ways, that's like tossing a coin. Because that's going to negate Anthony Joshua's natural advantages. And that's going to bring Dillian Whyte, the big puncher, you know, the scrapper. That's going to make him a live underdog here. If you're someone like myself who thinks there's a good chance this fight might go long, obviously someone could get caught, someone could get knocked out, but if you think there's a decent chance that this could actually be more of a tactical affair than people are expecting, and how many times has that happened before, you know? Bellew Cleverly, Eubank Saunders, look at the hatred on those occasions, yet it still goes the full distance, you know? Don't be surprised if this goes the distance. Or maybe not the distance, but don't be surprised if it goes leg. I just have questions about Joshua's stamina. And even though the same questions exist about Dillian Whyte, I just think Joshua's had it so all his own way in his career. And I think Joshua's build is so against being a 12-round fighter. But I have questions here. These aren't necessarily questions that I have fully made my decision on. You know, I'm not giving a full fight pick in this video. What I am saying though is as follows. With the bookmakers, and I've looked before this, on Betfair right now, Anthony Joshua is 1 to 10. 1 to 10. You have to put £10 on to win a single pound. I'll make a strong statement here. If you put your £10 on to win a pound, even if Anthony Joshua goes out and knocks Dillian Whyte out with the first punch he throws, I still think that was a bad bet. The value isn't there. You're not getting adequate reward for your investment. And you're taking too much of a risk given the intangibles that are available in this fight. I mean, let's be honest, if you shop around, you can probably get 4% interest with a bank. Why are you taking 10% interest on Anthony Joshua to beat Dillian Whyte? You know, Dillian Whyte looks to be a handy prospect here. Anthony Joshua's never been hit on the chin in a pro ring. You know, he's been dropped in the amateurs. He's never been beyond a few rounds. He's never really had anyone punch him back. We don't know how good his defence is under fire. We don't know about his inside game. We don't know about his back foot game. We don't know about how he responds to being hit in the body. He looks like a great fighter from what we've seen, but there are so many intangibles, and Dillian Whyte seems to be a kind of guy who could ask those questions. As for Dillian Whyte, as I've said throughout this video, the same question marks exist. I'm going to finalise my full prediction and, make that known ahead of the fight. But regardless of that, I will be betting on Dillian Whyte. I can tell you that. And I'm the sort of guy whether I predict Anthony Joshua to win and bet on Dillian Whyte. And the reason I bet on Dillian Whyte is purely a percentage call, a value play. It's basic mathematics, however you want to describe it. But Dillian Whyte might have something as a pro. There are certain things he does that are impressive. And I'm not as convinced about Anthony Joshua as everyone else is. He's gone about his business very, very well. But against what level of opposition? And can you be taking 1 to 10 against the guy with that many question marks on his head? Dillian Whyte can fight, he can punch, he seems to have a chin, he's got a jab, he's got oversized reach. He's a genuine tough guy. And he's the kind of guy who can operate on that Erkan Tepe versus David Price blueprint. He's got the style to ask those questions of Joshua. He's got the style to not get bullied by Anthony Joshua. In a 2-horse race, you can get best part of 9 to 1 on Betfair. If you shop around closer to the fight, you may actually get more than that. 9 to 1's crazy. 9 to 1 is worth a bet for me. I'll be playing at those odds. And to anyone who gives me grief, I was one of them who got the 5 to 1 on Tyson Fury. So it shows that upsets can happen in boxing, and that's why I bring it up. Because how many people commented on the videos, Vladimir Klitschko will knock Tyson Fury out within 1 round. That showed that boxing isn't just about savagery. Boxing is about skill. And I'm just not sure that Anthony Joshua's answered enough questions to be priced the way he is. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me the thumbs up. I'm going to do a separate video. I really need to finalise my prediction. I'll put it up shortly. You'll also find videos coming up soon with a prediction for Bellew Masterneck, Spike O'Sullivan Eubank. Thanks for watching.